assessments, however, emphasize that partition, far from emerging inevitably out of a policy of divide and rule, was largely a contingent development. As late as 1940, it might still have been avoided. Some earlier work, such as that of the British historian Patrick French in Liberty or Death, shows how much came down to a clash of personalities among the politicians of the period, particularly between Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the leader of the Muslim League, and Mohandas Gandhi and Jawaharlal Nehru, the two most prominent leaders of the Hindu-dominated Congress party.
So today we are going to talk about the next episode, what happened after that. You already heard Priyanka, who has already spoken regarding this independence incidents. So I want to going to talk about the next set of the real life of Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee. So the seeds of discontent had already been sown amongst the Hindu and Muslim population of Bengal, when the British colonial rulers headed by Lord Curzon partitioned Bengal in 1905. Though both of communities fought together to reunite Bengal and was finally successful in nullifying the partition in 1911. The British had succeeded in dividing a wedge between the two communities by pushing forth the narrative into the minds of the Muslim populace that the partition would help them economically. The tension between the two communities had heightened between 11 to 14 February 1946, and with riots and communal clashes. In Calcutta, both the Hindu and Muslim newspaper at that time added fuel to throw inflammatory and high partition reporting, thus increasing the antagonism between the two communities. So this actually happened, and these are so much of encouragement that we want to know more about this person, how he diverted this Indian politics, how he actually contributed towards this Indian independence. So that's what I have spoken today, and we will definitely appear again with our next set of research papers, and again with this certain discussion about Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee in the next episode. So that's all from my end today, guys.
Giving vent to the fear of the Muslim League, its leader, ex-Congressman Muhammad Ali Jinnah, called a press conference at his Mumbai residence in July 1946 to announce that the Muslim League had chopped out a plan to launch a struggle for achieving their demand of an independent state. We will either have a divided India or a destroyed India, Jinnah stated. One of the first steps towards the said struggle was calling of a general strike, Hartal, on 16 August 1946 and termed it as Direct Action Day. 16th August was cleverly chosen by Jinnah as that year it was the 18th day of Ramzan, the day the Prophet Muhammad waged the first battle of Badr, defeating the non-believers and conquering Mecca. Hence, it was a significant day for the Islamists and was an indirect call by Jinnah to repeat their triumph over the heathens. This call in itself established Jinnah as a bigot, for removed from the polished, elitist image he used to carry earlier on.
All three men were Anglicized lawyers who had received at least part of their education in England. Jinnah and Gandhi were both Gujarati. Potentially, they could have been close allies, but by the early 1940s, their relationship had grown so poisonous that they could barely be persuaded to sit in the same room. At the center of the debates lies the personality of Jinnah, the man most responsible for the creation of Pakistan. In Indian nationalist accounts, he appears as the villain of the story. For Pakistanis, he is the father of the nations. As French points out, neither side seems especially keen to claim him as a real human being. the Pakistan is restricting him to an appearance on banknotes in demure Islamic costume.
Thank you so much once again, viewers, for staying with us. We really appreciate your patience, your understanding for all along the journey that you have been with us. Now, when we talk about this specific time when the great Calcutta killings and the emerging differences between the Hindus and Muslims started to divide Bengal into different parts, we always should remember the role played by the then Prime Minister of Bengal, Mr. Suhrawardy. In fact, he was trying to apply the technique the British rulers tried to do in the year of 1905 by putting some of the idea to divide Bengal, that is the partition of Bengal, which somehow was not done because both the communities tried to stay together, and by the end of 1911 Bengal got unified once again, at least theoretically. But somehow this person, by the influence of Muhammad Ali Jinnah, started applying a plan where they can add this whole Bengal with Pakistan using the differences of the two communities. The plan was very simple. What Suhrawardy wanted is to create some kind of fear in the minds of the Hindus that they either flee out of their place or they get killed. So if you kill 100 people, at least the remaining 4,000 people will flee out of the place out of fear. And that is the reason he started to figure out what is the exact population in Calcutta and what is the exact population in and around the outskirts of Calcutta in terms of Hindus and the Muslims. What was the count at that point in time? 64% was there in Calcutta, whereas the remaining part, like 33%, were the Muslims over there in Calcutta. And across the remaining parts, the outskirts, there was a majority, 42% over there, as the Muslims were majority at that point in time. So what he tried to do is to create some kind of terror even across the outskirts of Calcutta, that is like Howrah and Hooghly, where the Muslims will try to kill the Hindus, and the Hindus will either die or flee away from their place, keeping all those places, the belongings for the Muslims. And the Muslims will then try to keep a control on the place, and then it will be easier for them to merge both the Bengals with Pakistan. And that is how the terrorism mechanic work, and that is how it tried to work at that point in time through the mindsets of those two villains. One is Jinnah and the other was Suhrawardy.
So guys, the conclusion of this piece that I have actually delivered today, so basically what exactly happened right at that part of time, which I have just described right on this video. So the conclusion that was that youngest generation don't know about the contribution of Dr. Mukherjee in the freedom movement. This is not the mistake of the generation. However, in history books has never mentioned about the contribution of Dr. Mukherjee's. The Congress government never gave recognition as he deserves. He joined in Hindu Mahasabha in 1939 and he became a president in 1944. When the famine of Bengal arrived in 1943, organized a large scale of relief work. When M.A. that was Muhammad Jinnah introduced the two-nation theory by dividing India and creating Pakistan, Mr. Mukherjee opposed with tooth and nail. So this was basically the conclusion. That means again, you can know right that how this history things has actually played, because this books never mentioned what exactly his contribution was there during this Indian freedom movement. And that's the reason, right, that younger generation doesn't know that what kind of contribution he did and what was the effect of Churchill. Right. So that's all from my end today, guys. Thank you so much.